Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Something Something podcast. And, Larry, for a while there back in April, I didn't know if we'd be saying that again.
Oh,
With me, as always, is Larry Sands.
oh, hey, what's up? No, I'm just kidding. Hello, nurse. I mean, Eric.
Wow, you had to say nurse, huh?
I know. Oh, that's how fitting, right? How fitting.
Those of you who listen to the show know that in March 27th, I had my leg surgery, which, Larry, went great. Only one day in the hospital.
See, that's amazing.
Hmm?
That's amazing.
For a major surgery like I had, yeah. So I had a wound vac in me to, fix up all the surgery stuff.
Right,
That
right.
lasted a week. Then I just had this other tube to collect fluid.
Right.
It was
And
supposed.
well, I was just going to say you were one day out, you were one day in the hospital after your operation, but then just like kind of fast forward to last week, what happened? You
Okay,
kind of
so
revisited
last
the
week,
hospital.
around Monday of last week, I started getting really sick. Come Thursday night, I had a fever of 102.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you had a fever of 103 because you're hot-blooded.
Hot-blooded. So we rushed me to the emergency room. I get admitted in the hospital again. There was the chief of surgery at that hospital. It's like, you got a bad infection of your leg, you need surgery. But he calls my surgeon at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh no.
From what I hear, they got into a major argument over the phone.
Ooh.
And then they ended up sending me to another hospital that day where my doctor works at. She looked over everything, was like, yeah, you don't need surgery. Here's some antibiotics and fluid.
Oh, man.
So Monday, I get home. And yeah, man, that's pretty much it. 2 hospital stays in 1 month.
That's pretty good, Eric. I mean, you're kind of catching up with, I don't know who, but you're catching up with somebody out there, so that's good.
I was so depressed while in the hospital. I was like, maybe I should do the second time. Maybe I should start ranking hospitals.
Right.
But,
You
the
can start
staff, yeah, they get an A+ at this one.
You should start your own YouTube channel, rating hospitals. That's hilarious. And by the way, we before we started our show, you did mention about you got out Monday, and then when did you go see? What'd you go see?
Well, no, here's the funny thing. I had another tube in my leg 2 weeks ago. It was supposed to last 2 weeks. It only stayed in a week. It
popped out, right?
On its own, but that was normal. The body rejected it. That was Thursday at around 11. Thursday at 3, after this tragic thing happens, I went to go see Us, the new Jordan Peele movie.
Uh-huh.
Now and again, this week, still got to wrap my leg up, keep it clean.
Yeah.
Slight infection. Today, I went to go see Pet Sematary.
Wow. Eric, I feel really bad about me not having such an exciting life like you. I mean, man. Well, first of all, I'm glad you're okay. And
Thank you for all your
to,
texts and stuff while I was in there, man.
Absolutely, man. I mean, that's what friends are for. Say you okay, anyway.
Yeah, well, we'll do that later.
I mean, really, it's good to be back on the air. We took like a little break, since your surgery and your subsequent hospital visit.
Visits
with an S. But yeah, it's good to be back. It's good to hear your voice. It's good to be interviewing again. Every time we get on the show, there's always somebody or something that we talk about that just pumps me up. And Eric, we're on a roll with our guests and how lucky we are.
Definitely.
We are so stinking lucky, especially this week, because we have an artist, we have a not a biographer, we have an artist, we have an author actually, and she's really an inspiring person. And let's just get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thank you for joining us on the show. Our guest this week is Miss Love. Miss Love, are you there?
How you doing, boys?
Good. How are you?
Thanks for coming on the
I'm
show.
doing so well. Thank you for having me.
Okay, first of all, I love your accent, by the way.
From Tennessee.
Awesome.
Tennessee. Very nice. Very nice. By the way, Tennessee where?
Well, it was Charleston for a while.
Okay. How far is that from Nashville?
I don't know, because I was a child. So then was from Tennessee to Virginia and then to Philadelphia. So it's just been in my family line for so long that it's just in the blood. So I don't remember much Tennessee. I mean, I just know that's where most of my family originated from, and then Virginia, and then Pennsylvania.
Very nice. Very nice. So, you have a super, super inspiring and very, very interesting story. So let's get right into it. You tell us a little bit about yourself, first of all.
Well, a little bit about myself in a nutshell. Most of my early part of my life was difficult. I was raised in foster care. There was a big fire when I was a child, and my mother lost our home and couldn't take care of us. So we all were split up in foster homes, and that was difficult. And I would always write. I wrote stories when I was a child, and I always would write a happy ending to the stories I would write, and it would just make me feel better. And I found a lot of comfort in that. And I had a social worker that I would see, when I was young, and she had a lot of faith in me, and I think she saw some talent, and she always encouraged me. The foster home itself, that was negative, very, very negative people, lots of materialism, but no one really getting to know me and finding out what I wanted to do with my life. But I did move on and go to college, and that was a fairly incredibly inspiring experience. Cedar Crest College in Allentown, and that just really set a platform for me to succeed. And when I got out of college, I graduated in '92, the peak of the recession, which was awful. There was no work. So I ended up going back to school and getting a master's degree in education. That's when I decided I wanted to pursue teaching. And I did. And long story short, I did become a Philadelphia school district teacher, which was a very good decision for me, but a very challenging situation. It started out wonderful, actually. And then a couple, 3-4 years into the job, it became very difficult, almost impossible. I was teaching 5th graders one year. And that year was horrible. It was horrible. It was just horrible. I've never seen anything so horrible in all my life. I mean, from the filthiest building I've ever taught in, to a first-year principal who didn't know what she was doing, to parents who didn't care, to children who didn't care. And it felt like they didn't care anyway. A drug-infested neighborhood. It was a disaster. It was just an absolute disaster. And I decided that year I needed to get away, and I took a trip to the Caribbean. And long story short, I met a professional there, and we got into a conversation, and I really just went off about how horrible my life was. And through that conversation, she said to me, you're here. You got away. You escaped. But there is no escape for your children. They're in a drug-infested neighborhood, and their lives don't look too bright. But you had a way out. And I thought about that, and I thought, well, that's true. I mean, how would I feel if I lived in those conditions? Would I be excited about coming to school? Would I want to learn? So through that talk, she said to me, what did you ever think about maybe finding a way to connect with them on a different level, rather than shoving reading and writing and math down their throats? Have you ever thought about inspiring them in another way? And I thought, well, this is a Hispanic community, mostly Puerto Rican children. some African American, but it was predominantly Puerto Rican, Latino, and community. I thought to myself, well, what could I do to help them become inspired or excited? I thought, well, they're very excited. They're very proud. In this particular community, they were very proud of their culture. And, I thought, and, the businesswoman I was speaking to said, well, have you ever thought about finding a way to connect with them? And I turned around and I said, well, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to put Puerto Rico in a classroom? How am I supposed to do that? And I stopped right in the middle of what I was saying, and I got an amazing vision. I just saw the tropical island in that classroom. I saw the island of learning. I just saw it. I saw it in those few seconds because I do have quite an imagination. I'm a visionary. I'm a designer, and I just saw that classroom transform in those few seconds I was talking to her. And I thought, wow, I wonder if the principal would let me do it, because you do have to get the administration on your side and approve some type of environment like that. So I left the trip and I went back and I started shopping around. I was going to dollar stores. I was going online shopping at other stores. And I started slowly putting this classroom together, an island of learning. And my goal was to have it as much culture related for them so that they could identify with it when they would come into the classroom. I spent all summer developing it.
Wow.
And that fall, when they came to school, it was amazing when they walked into that classroom.
But
I could send you
none of them
pictures of it.
expected
I actually sent you boys pictures of it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
did you see some of those images?
A few of them, yeah.
And they will be up I believe in
This
the
episode.
podcast. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So we're going to pop them up as you talk about them.
And that island hut and the waterfall, just the rainforest, and it was incredible. And what was amazing about it was that when they came to school, my children who came from, say, the Philippine Islands, and my children who were from Africa, and my children who were from Puerto Rico, I had a couple of children from the British version. Everyone had an island that they could identify with. So when they came to school, they just saw themselves, and they felt better about themselves. They had a cultural identity that they could relate with, and they just felt great. They felt like they were in a place where it made them feel good about themselves. It was Ms. Love's Island of Learning. I had that going on for 2 years in that school. And when I was in school with them, we would have writing workshops. That was a part of the curriculum. I sent you boys a picture of a book a couple of the children wrote. They always had me in their books. Miss Love was always one of their characters in their stories. I never told them to do that, but they went and did it.
They were just so touched by you and your message.
Yep.
Well, what made me feel good is that they saw me as a humble person in all the stories they wrote. And that's something that I've always taught. I try to teach people. Be humble. Don't get cocky about anything you ever do, no matter how successful you become. We're not here to be better than someone else. We're here to give as much light as we can to someone else.
Exactly.
And when I saw that happening, that's when I realized that I was being successful. But in their stories that they would write, they portrayed me in a way I was a humble character. And the first story they wrote was I was on the island all by myself. And they wrote stories about how I made friends.
Wow.
So and then they got creative with these magical things that would happen. So this went on for a good 2 years, and I would collect these stories that they would write. And some of my children were foster children too. And I could see the painful lives that they were living, and I could see that they were doing the same thing that I was doing when I was a child. Mm-hmm. They were writing these stories of hope, and in these stories on this island. And over a period of time, I started to see that they really were desperate to become somebody important too, because they were lonely children, just like I was. So I went on a mission to take their ideas and rewrite their stories, because I certainly didn't want to take and plagiarize their work. That's not appropriate. But I
Yeah.
wanted to take their concepts and develop a story on my own. And I couldn't remove myself as a character in a story because it just felt so right with everything they did. And as long as they had me as a humble character, I didn't mind being a character.
Mm.
I didn't want to be a superhero. I didn't want to be all that in a bag of chips. I wasn't out for that. As long as I was the humble woman in the story, then fine, Miss Love could stay in the story. So I wrote it that way. And I had the rainforest, and I had the magical geode. I had a child with this magical geode idea that I rewrote it, but I kept the concept of this magical geode just blowing open. I sent you the animation that we put in the animated
Yeah.
version. I mean, that is just, it's incredible the way that came out, the way that developed. So I took their stories and rewrote a story that became mine, but through some of their ideas. And the characters, the children characters, they're the foster children. And I changed their appearance, of course, to protect their rights. And I
And I
had to
just
change
want to
up
say
names. Go
the
ahead.
illustration of the children are really cool looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Sabrina and Arthur, I couldn't use their last names. That was illegal, of course. But I could change up their appearances a little bit. But I kept their ethnic backgrounds. The Asian child, the African American child, the Caucasian child, and the Latino. They were all foster children, and now they're adults. And when I sent this book to them, they just couldn't believe it. I told them when they were younger, I said, I'll write a book someday. You'll see. You'll be there, and I'll find you. Well, how are you going to find us, Miss Love? I'll find you. And of course, I found them. I found them all through Facebook.
Wow.
Every one of them. So I reached out to them, and they all got the book when it came out. And and that's just giving the light, just spreading the light. And now all of them, I want them to move on and pursue any goal that they have. It's been a beautiful journey, and it's amazing that it did happen in Philadelphia. We have the worst reputation probably in the USA in terms of our performance in the school district. We do get beat down a lot in the media. You don't hear many positive stories, although the Daily News did write a beautiful story about my work, and a story that I just told you on the Island of Learning in the school district. The Daily News is one of the nation's leading newspapers, and they did pick up my story and write about it when this book came out. So I'm very grateful that some positive stories are told, but we don't have enough positive stories in our school district being told. So you don't know how much it means to me that you're taking time out to hear how this all unraveled, because back in 2014, this was a Kindle animated story, and now it has come out hardcover as a classical story. When we were younger, we had those big books with all of the illustrations tied into a chapter book, and now here it is. And to bring this back into children's literature, has just been, and that was my goal, to bring back those bigger classical books that children loved when I was growing up. I just loved them so much, and they went out, of course. Publishing companies didn't print them anymore. It became very expensive to produce. But I put myself in a position, I worked hard through my life to make sure I would have enough money to work with a company, and a company would hopefully love the work, and Book Baby did fall in love with it, and they offered me a contract so that we could bring back that bridge book where the chapters still have those colorful animations and colorful illustrations too.
What has some of the feedback you've gotten from the book? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I get a lot of feedback on various levels. I've gotten feedback from nursing homes, from people who are older, who just love the sounds from the animated version. It's just very soothing to them. And they feel like there's peace at the end of the story. And I met an older woman. She passed away 3 years ago, but when she saw the animated version and she read it, she felt like she was okay to let go and go to heaven.
Wow.
And I said to myself, at first I thought to myself, and then I said to her, what would make you feel like that? Why would you feel like you were okay to let go? What part of the story? And she says, well, why are you sad, Miss Love? You know, we're all going to go, like, we all have to leave the world. You can't feel bad about that. She said, I just felt like the children at the end of the story found that haven, that safe haven. And she says, that's where I want to go. I'm ready.
Wow.
And she died 3 days later after she said that to me.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. Wow.
So I've had such journeys through all this, and that was back when it came out animated, about back in 2014. And then I got an email from a fan who saw a story of me in the Northeast Times, and she sent me an email, and she said to me, I just love this book to come out hardcover. If you could ever do it, I'd be the first one to buy it. And I thought, oh, I don't know. That's a journey, and that's a riskful journey. It's a lot involved. People don't realize how hard it is to come out hardcover. First of all, to even find companies out there who will produce you hardcover. It's money, it's time, and it's a skill. A lot of companies don't produce them because it's a trade that a lot of people don't have the talent to do. And I must have knocked on the doors of a lot of companies, and I kept getting the same answer. Soft cover is all we do. Soft cover is all we do. Sure, we'll publish it, soft cover. But my fans didn't want it. They had the vision for hardcover, and now that it's out hardcover, and when the first time I saw first proof in my hands hardcover, I knew why they were coming in that direction. That beautiful classical feeling. I don't know if I'm sure you had a chance to take a look at the photographs of it that I sent you of the book hardcover. It just takes you back to when we were children and we held the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we held those stories from our childhood, of those classical Walt Disney stories. It's just so there. And soft cover is not the answer for this book. Hardcover was the answer, and it was a real blessing when Book Baby came along and said, this is it. We'll pick you up. We're going with you, Miss Love. Let's do it. And it took them about a year and it was about a year, a little over a year of designing it, getting the teams to work together to produce this. And journey we'll never regret. Book Baby will never regret it. I'll never regret it. I can't speak highly enough of that company as a publisher. And there was no way I could do it on my own. I had to find a publisher to pick up this book hardcovers. And when it came out hardcover, and I went to my first book signing, I don't have words for that experience. That experience was in Newtown, Council Rock School District. And it was the first hardcover out there, meeting children. And Newtown, of course, is one of the leading school districts in the country. And I got an offer to come and do a signing there for an event, and it was a multicultural event. We were celebrating cultures all around the world. And started out a little slow. I saw people going to eat food first. That's what people do. They went to start eat food. And I heard them, dancing and carrying on. And next thing I know, I look up and I see a little girl in the distance, and just beautiful. And she smiled at me from a distance. She slowly walked. I could see her slowly walking over to me, as if her body language was saying, is it okay if I come talk to you? She was a little shy. So I stood up and I put my arms out, kind of opening myself up to her. And she walked about 2/3 of the way, and then she dashed the rest of the way. And she came over to me. She ran around across the table. She said, I want to be a writer. And she hugged me so tight. And I signed my book for her, and it was just so exciting. I had my picture taken with her, and she talked to me, and she opened up the book, and she was so inspired by it. And it just made me feel like everything I've been through, for 1 second, for 1 second, when she hugged me and I looked her in her eyes, for 1 second, I did see Lucy. I did see Lucy. I did see the woman who passed away for just a second,
Wow.
smiling at us.
Mm.
Because that was my first inspiration, and she went to heaven. But when I met this little girl, I almost felt like Lucy sent her to me. Just felt like that.
You know
for a
what?
minute.
I 100% believe that. I wouldn't doubt it for a second.
And if she didn't send it to me, she was just smiling because I could see her face.
Yeah.
I could just see Lucy's face smiling. So I chatted with this little girl for a little bit, and she told me about her big ambition to become a writer. And I said, one of the things I told her, I held her hands, and I said, there's always going to be an obstacle. There's always going to be someone telling you can't do it. I said, but you can't listen to that, no matter who it is, even if it's your family, because it will not be easy. It won't be. And I said, but if you believe in yourself and you stay focused and you stay in school and you get your education, you're going to become a very good writer. You need the skills. But just remember, there's always a mountain you're going to have to climb. But when you get to the top of the mountain and you fly, you'll never regret it. She was so thrilled to have met me, and I pray for that little girl every day.
Awesome.
And after she flew out of the event with the book, and other people came along, and I made sales that day, and I met wonderful people. And I just felt inside of myself that day that it was the very beginning of this hardcover coming out. And it was actually just about a month ago that it happened. This book hardcover has not been out long. It just hit the stores January 19th at Barnes & Noble. And I've only had one event. That was the first event at the Newtown School. And I'm now making plans for some libraries here in Abington. So it's been beautiful. It's been beautiful, and I just don't have words for encouraging people to, no matter how tough it gets, you just have to keep moving. You have to keep moving around the negative energy, because there will be negative energy that you will encounter, and it will try to stop you. But you have to forge ahead.
Yeah, that's what I love so much about the story with the young girl is you were honest with her. You didn't tell her it's going to be the easiest path in the world. You told her, no, there's going to be struggles and mountains you have to climb. And I really want to commend you for that, because it would have been wrong of you to just say, you're going to be the next, J.K. Rowling. It's never going to be hard at all. But you were honest, and that's really awesome of you to do that for her.
Well, I think that helps set someone up for success. It doesn't make them feel anxious or worried, because now that she knows that, she's going to get strength inside of herself to go climb that mountain. And I hope that, and I gave her light, so the light's going to show the way. That's what you have to do, and that's all a part of being a humble person. I could have been egotistical and kept my secrets of my success to myself, but I didn't, and I don't want to do that.
Exactly.
I want to give her that light and that strength and all that understanding of what lies ahead of her, so that she will face it and expect it. And when you expect the obstacle, you'll prepare for it. So, and now when she makes it, she'll pass it on to someone else, and they'll make it. And the more people who make it in the world, the better the world becomes. And I feel that that's what we all need to be working to be doing, rather than throwing all this hate around.
It's a lot, it's harder to hate than it is to love. It's easier to say something nice to someone than it is to say something negative.
Well, I think it's really hard for people to spread love, because you have to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
You have to put your love out there. And sometimes when people do that, they get rejected. Even in ways that are subtle and kind, they get rejected. So it's a risk to put love out there, to put light out there, to spread peace, to spread hope, to spread encouragement. A lot of it gets torn down. And the person who gets torn down feels terrible. And then they don't want to try again and put it out there again. But you just have to realize that each time you get torn down, let it light another candle inside of you.
Mm.
So you're just stronger the next time you get out there. And there's always someone you will encounter who will blow out your light, and then there's someone who will take the candle and pass it on. So that's the reason why a lot of people don't love, because they are afraid. And it shows a part of their emotion they don't want other people to see. You know, that's why a lot of people don't give gratitude or don't express their gratitude, because it takes love to do that. And they don't want to be seen that way. They're afraid they're going to get hurt that way. So it's easier to spread the hate. It really is. It's easier to just be negative sometimes.
Well, I guess that's just because of my mindset. It's easier for me to want to encourage someone than to discourage them. Like when I worked with, the teenagers and kids in my church, I always wanted to be real and to be an encouragement to them.
Right. Well, if you've had a lot of experience with children, you're built that way.
Yeah.
And we're almost trained that way. But a lot of people who don't work with children and aren't really focused on that seeding encouragement in a child, and they're coming from a different path and a different occupation, they're coming from a more competitive world. And sometimes if you're coming from a competitive world, sometimes then you need that person to be under you so that you are succeeding and moving ahead and achieving that higher platform, that higher podium that you're going for. So I think it just all depends on how you're brought up and what occupation you're coming from and how you perceive yourself, but also how confident you are. Confident people are going to feel and react the way you just did. But we have a lot of insecure people out there. So many insecure people out there. And it's very easy for them to put someone else down because that makes them feel better about themselves.
Yeah.
When you're insecure.
Yeah.
And we have more insecure than confident out there.
Yep. You can't see my head right now, but I'm nodding in agreement. So much so. And I do have to ask this, Miss Love. Would you say that you are living your destiny?
I think I've been living my destiny probably from the day I was born, but didn't realize it. I think that my entire life was meant to be. I think I'm a very spiritual woman, and I think the Holy Spirit had it planned out.
Amen.
And I just maybe didn't see it right away. But now as I look back, I mean, I wouldn't trade anything, even for the hardship as a child. I wouldn't trade it. I've reconnected with my sister that I hadn't been connected with for so long, and it's been a beautiful connection and a beautiful family that I've gotten back. And I'm looking back and I'm seeing a lot of beacons of light of people who helped me get where I am. And maybe there wasn't the love I needed as a child. It just came back in other ways, and it has set me in a path that was always meant to be. But I always followed my inside heart. I always followed my dream. I always followed what I felt the Spirit was telling me to do. And I think that's where a lot of people get lost. They start listening to, the big shot, or they start listening to someone who's steering them in a path of all about materialism and money, rather than a person who is steering them and finding out who you really are and what you really want to do, and let that little light inside of you, that light that I'm talking about, that's your spirit.
Yeah.
That's what you let lead you.
You are, and I say this, you are a fire starter. You are a candle lighter. You are a fire starter. And
thank you.
You're welcome. Just the way that you talk, you're such a blessing.
Thank you so much. That's so wonderful to hear.
Second.
I
Yeah.
did not hear that when I was a child. It's so wonderful to hear somebody call me a blessing. I would have loved to have heard that as a child, but it's so thank you so much for calling me a blessing.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I know, for one, this is honestly, this is the easiest and yet most inspiring podcast I've ever done because I'm just sitting here listening. and I have to tell you that just everything that you're saying and speaking about is just it's resonating, and it's moving. It's like it's like the spirit is moving through you and out into your phone and into everybody's speakers and just
It's definitely this will definitely plant seeds in people.
oh yeah, yeah.
Well, I hope so. I hope that they find something about themselves to start with that they feel good about, and just go with that feeling, because it starts with you feeling good about you.
And you have to work every day at that. I think
You do have to work every day at it, but I also feel like you also have to open up your heart to connecting with people who appreciate you, and let those people in. Let them get close to you and let them share in your journey. It's also about alignment with people who appreciate you. Just like listening to you and then having you call me a blessing, that's an alignment now in my life. And that means so much to me that now I just want to go find the next mountain and go climb it, because that means a lot to me. But you've been aligned in my life for some reason. And and I hope that maybe we have a future. There may be other pods. There may be other times we talk.
yes, ma'am.
But it's all about people. Also, be careful about your alignments in your life, because they can make a huge difference for you in a great way and also in a devastating way. So follow your intuition. Follow what's speaking to you inside, and try not to let the outside influences tell you who to connect with, because you know what's best for you. You know what's going to help you grow.
Goodness. I think we're in church tonight.
Yeah, that's
Well, I don't want to sound like I'm in church so much. I just want to sound like I'm giving advice to people that's going to help you go forward and not backward. That's all.
the thing. Me and Larry are two church-going boys.
Yeah.
That's how.
Oh,
we
yeah?
Yeah, that's
and
how we met.
that's
You met in church?
Yeah.
yes.
Over 20 years ago in Los
Yeah.
Angeles.
Yeah. Yep. That's the thing. And see, that's the good thing about what you're saying. But that's an even better thing, because people that are listening to this right now, it will resonate either as a faith-based or a motivation, or just get out there and you just got to do it. And that's the thing.
Well, one of the things that I want to make clear on people who relate as a faith base, I do not belong to an organized religion. I stay away from that. I mean, I do believe in God, and I do believe in the Holy Spirit. I do believe in heaven. I believe in all of that. But organized religion is not for me. I'm very much into following the Holy Spirit. Okay, and I do that. But it's not. I don't want people to think that I'm here to preach or anything like that. It's not about that. It's about finding you inside of you. Okay, and that can be done on so many different levels.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I tell you, that, and I absolutely understand where you're coming from, because it's some of the things, that people stand for and try to push things on to other people. But in the same sentence, you can always tell when somebody is speaking truthful about who they are and how they feel and about their God, so yeah, but I can hear it and I can feel it just as well. And we didn't have to get in this conversation, but I'm glad we are, and
No,
it's
definitely.
just
I mean, you asked me about my journey, and what people need to understand about book authors is that our journeys are very personal, and they're very emotional. I mean, we have very emotional times, when we're working with our editors, And yet the editor, with this plot in our story was written 6 times. I mean, I had 5 failing for plots before it. So there's so much that we go through as authors. It's not an easy road. You're going to go up and down, and it's a lot that you go through to get to the end. It's not what you just, oh, we're going to write a book, it's a piece of cake. It's not. It's a lot of sacrifice. You ask any author out there, it's a lot of sacrifice. But it just has to be something that you know is right for you. And when you know something's right for you, you go after it. You're never going to quit when you know what's right for you.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things, like to me, I think all artists, whether you're an author, whether you're a musician, whether you're an actor or a dancer or a filmmaker, I think everybody kind of goes through, because this is your baby, and everything we do as artists, those are our babies. But not only that, that's our true self that is outwardly speaking. And so and I understand it's super hard to go there and to let other people try to look at it objectively, when you're like, but I don't want you to really look at it objectively. I want you to just do what I say, right? And because
right.
I know the best, right? And and see, now we're getting into like the part of the podcast where I think in my heart of hearts, and Eric, you may agree with me, I'm not sure, but I think we should have you back on, because you have done such an amazing job of telling us about your journey and your book, and your life.
I would love to, have an ongoing rapport with you gentlemen. I mean, it's been a wonderful experience to share with you. And I just hope that anyone who's listening, they feel inspired to go after something they've always wanted to go after. But also understand that when you pursue a project, it's the tool, it's the vehicle to reach other people. And that's what I feel is happening. Like when I met the little girl, like when I met Lucy in a nursing home, it has been something that I felt the Holy Spirit wanted me to do so that I could reach other people and share some peace with them, or inspire them in some way, or offer them comfort. People tell me the story brings them comfort, when my story is actually filled with a lot of scary moments and a lot of difficulty and a lot of challenges, and a lot of, even the children argued in the story, but for some reason they found peace throughout that work, and just made them feel calm. And they just felt like, they tell me things about how they feel about at the end of the story, and I wonder how they got to that place. But because you've been through your life and your experiences, you're going to bring your life experiences to my children's book. It's going to affect everyone differently.
Absolutely.
And so a lot of people say it brings them peace, and a lot of people say it brings them, fantasies. And that's why a lot of my fans say, oh, this should be an animated film. And I do have a vision for that. I do see this children's book as a movie someday, if that's what is meant to be. I follow what's meant to be.
Yeah.
I try to do what the Spirit tells me to do. I kind of read that, feel that energy around me, what I should do. I read my energy, and I feel like if that energy is telling me to go toward that movie, then go toward it. So there's definitely a future here for this children's work, and I want to reach as many people as I can. And I just want them to know that, don't get shattered. Don't get shattered. Just rise. But find somebody out there, even if it's just one person, to get by your side, someone to talk to. There's got to be somebody, So, and I did it. I was a foster child. I made it. So that's for all the foster children out there. We're born survivors, so we want everybody else to come through too. So whatever you create in your life, it's your vehicle, it's your tool. Just like just like all those famous artists out there through their music, they've affected so many people's lives. Their music did it. Their artistry, their creation did it. And they'll tell you the stories of people who have gotten in touch with them and have told them stories about how their songs changed their lives or how their song did this or that for them. So it's just like me. I'm an artist. I created a children's book. I want my book to affect people's lives just like the famous people out there, all their fans calling in about their songs and how it's changed, how it's affected them. So we don't become artists because we want to become big shots. No, we want to help other people, and we do it through our artistry.
And
Amen.
I think that is
Amen.
the perfect way to end the show this week.
Amen.
Miss Love, thank you so much for coming on. When we sign off, don't hang up because we like to do a wrap up with the guest.
Okay.
The link to your webpage will be in the description of this video. Everyone go out and buy the book. If
And-
you don't If
Yeah,
you don't have kids, buy it for your nieces and nephews. Buy a copy and donate it to your library if they
buy
don't
4
have one.
copies. Buy 4 copies.
Buy multiple copies.
That's right. And just real quick, the links will be in the link of the description. But you can get it at iBooks, Amazon, and also Barnes and Noble. Please.
And also Book Baby.
Oh, and Book
Okay.
Baby. That
Yeah,
all those
Ms.
links will be in.
Yeah, Ms. Love's Mystical Island Adventure.
Yes, yes. And I just again I want to say right now, personally, I want to have you back on, and I want you to talk about the creative side of
Oh,
getting
awesome!
this
Oh,
book.
the Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got a story there.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why exactly we need to have you back on. But I just want to
Awesome.
say thank you for sharing yourself and being an inspiration and a light. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, boys, for having me.
And everyone, have a happy and safe weekend.